And I remember getting fired, and I was like, man, that felt not good, And 20 plus years later, I'm a founder of my own TV network now that's owned by 70 plus athletes. Ladies and gentlemen, data is the new oil. Advertisers are looking at the same thing. They don't care if you have 1 million followers anymore. Like that's a vanity metric now. Quite honestly, you can have 3 million followers and they're not even damn engaged, right? Why can't athletes have their own media network, given the fact that athletes have large followings on social media, large influence?
All right, guys, welcome back to the lounge here at the Gents Place at the Star in Frisco. Deron, welcome.
Thank you for having me, man.
This is part 2 of Players TV.
Yeah.
Is this going to be it's going to be better than Colin's episode? Should we make it better? Or should we intentionally just make it about the same?
I don't know. I think Colin has a great story, man. Former art teacher.
Yeah.
YouTuber, Z-lister YouTuber.
That's right.
And owning a TV network. So I think that's
If you haven't checked out that episode with Colin, you got to do that for sure. But we've got Deron here, the other part of Players TV. You guys got a lot of people involved, which we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was interrogating Colin last time because I'm so interested in the media space. Mm-hmm. We launched our TV network here. We're doing the podcast stuff. But I felt like I was interrogating him because it was just like question after question. But some of the questions he was like, Deron's a better person to ask about that. So we're going to dig into some of that because I need to know how these deals are put together in particular. Mm-hmm. But before we dive into all the Players TV specifics, you have a really interesting story, including getting fired. I always like those stories. I got fired. I never got fired. I wish I got fired. I feel like I need to get fired to be successful. But go back in time. Tell us about your journey to becoming an entrepreneur in the media business.
Yeah, no. So from Houston, Texas, got had a football scholarship to play at Abilene Christian. Then transferred to UT Tyler just to get my degree. And I said, I'm not going to be in the NFL, so why would I go risk getting hurt and getting head injuries and all that? But I was always fascinated by skyscraper buildings. I was like, well, what do they do up there in those buildings? Like, what do they do up there? And I was always fascinated when seeing guys in their suits, and I don't think people wear suits anymore in business, but I was like, this is pretty cool. So I interned at a financial management company, the intern at a sports agency, and then I realized that I brought value to that sports agency because I knew a lot of the athletes. I knew how I could support them, and also I kind of can relate to them where they're from in their neighborhoods. Then I realized that I was working for the man behind the brand, and I was like, well, athletes typically in business or any business, people do business with who they like, who they trust, who they believe in, and they invest in the people who they believe in. And I realized that, well, if I'm building this sports agency's business, and I am the person that's recruiting the athletes, partnering up with them, at that point, I'm just working for a logo and a brand for the man, And then, so I channeled that energy. So I went to, out of college, I wanted to work for a TV station because I saw how these sales guys were driving nice cars in Tyler, Texas. The station was KLTV. Shout out to KLTV in East Texas, ABC affiliate.
Still around, right?
Still around, going strong, the news leader in East Texas. And I was so fascinated by the cars they were driving. I remember meeting with Pat Stacy. He's now the GM there now. And he was the head of sales there. And I was like, hey, I want to work in sales. And he was like, you have no experience, but you want to work your way up. Because I wanted to sell the spots and dots and advertisements around the Oprah show at 4 p.m. Mm-hmm. That's like big money during that time slot, And so I had to work my way up and worked in a newsroom. And getting to my story about how I got fired, I had an injury on my wrist from playing basketball at the rec center in college, and I had a cast on. And this is back in the throwback days. We had a teleprompter, and you had to kind of use your hand like a little knob. And it was I worked in a newsroom, so I was responsible for putting together the teleprompter, the script, putting everything on the news desk so they could be prepared for the show. And we got to the sports segment. And keep in mind, when you're in a small DMA market, they're using that footage to get a bigger job in a bigger market. So that's their game tape pretty much. And the sports guy was calling the Friday night football games and reading the teleprompter, and my wrist locked up because I had an injury. So he was reading the script the wrong way on live TV, and I knew I was doomed. So like the next day they called me in the office. They said, Deron, you're an extremely nice guy. You're a hard worker, but this spot is not for you anymore. and we wish you the best. And I remember getting fired, and I was like, man, that felt not good, And so 20 plus years later, I'm a founder of my own TV network now that's owned by 70 plus athletes. So long story, but that's the journey how I got here.
I love it.
And where I am today.
I love it. So give us a summary between getting fired and Players TV, because I know you and Colin met because you know how to put deals together. You know how to monetize some of these different influencers, athletes. So tell us what you were doing in between that.
So I launched my own sports marketing company at the time. It was called Y Sports Group. And I had several athletes as clients. And Anthony Tolliver was one of my clients, actually. And I, I still hoop. I go play Lifetime Fitness still. Yes, I still play every day, all the time. So I was getting buckets out there. And I remember getting on YouTube, seeing this guy named Shot Mechanics. I was like, who's this white guy to teach people how to shoot? So I was like, oh, I love his content. So I found myself watching the next content. I found myself binge watching his content because I love the art of basketball. I love the art of skill. I love the art of consistency and your craft. So, and it was really good. So I reached out to him and said, hey, I can help bring you some brand deals because I also had brand clients I was consulting for as well too. So I had athletes, I had brands. So I was able to kind of play matchmaker and bring the right opportunity. And he said, really? I'm this guy at Boise, Idaho. I was like, yeah. I was like, I could do something for you. So he gave me a chance, and our first deal was a $100,000 deal with Foot Locker East Bay.
Wow. How many subscribers did Colin have at that time? Do you remember?
75,000.
75,000.
Yeah.
You got $100,000 deal.
Yeah. So, and then we started doing more recon work, and we started figuring out, hey, people in China is ripping your content. People love basketball in China, and they love learning from Coach C, Colin. And I was like, dude, you're like a celebrity in China. So I had a consulting deal with Li Ning in China. So I was responsible for signing CJ McCollum to his deal with Li Ning and all that. He's still with Li Ning today. And I remember doing a consulting deal with those guys. And I said, hey, Li Ning, your people in China still in my man's content in China. He's a celebrity out there. Let's figure out how we can do a deal. So Colin got a $40,000 deal with Li Ning. He was the first first trainer on YouTube to get a shoe partnership. And
what does that look like as a I don't know if you'd call Colin an influencer or a creator, but what does that look like? He doesn't have his own shoe.
Right. No, he
what
was.
Does that deal look like?
Yeah, it was more promotion. He was an ambassador, so his content had he created custom content in China for the kids, sponsored by Li Ning. So it was more of a content play, right? But that allowed him to be able to reach more audiences through that engine in China with Li Ning. And so yeah, he had to wear all Li Ning clothing. So his shoes were Li Ning. It was no more wearing Kobe's and Nikes anymore on there. We had to wear Li Ning.
So he had to be in the gear when he's doing his thing.
Yep.
So he was still doing his regular videos, but now he's Li Ning.
Dripped in Li Ning, Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And Curry just did a huge deal.
$1 billion deal.
Yeah, with Li Ning. So
phenomenal. Yeah.
You can say you're one of the first, man. Maybe you set Curry up.
Hey, no, I think Dwayne Wade set Curry up. But I think it's cool to see Kyrie and who's one of our athletes as well, Players TV, is seeing people like Curry and Dwayne, those guys, Wade, taking their brands globally and being able to reach more people across the world because basketball is the universal world language, Mm-hmm. So I think that's really, really cool. Yeah.
What was it like, and how do you attract athletes? What's it like working with athletes? Because you have athletes as investors.
Yeah.
Right. And I'd love to you're not going to be able to list everybody. You got 70 plus, but give us a few of the guys you work with. What's it like working with those guys? And then how do you recruit athletes in? Because I think they think differently. They're approached all the time, the opportunities. I'm business partners with Emmett and Jerry Jones. I remember Emmett telling me early on, he's like, every day I get something via email, sent to my office, sent to my house, just throwing equity at him, and he puts most of it in the trash. So talk about just the whole partnership with athletes.
Yeah, look, man, throwing in the trash, you'll miss out on the wrong opportunity. That would not be good. But look, we have 70 plus athletes. I'll name quite a few. We have Ken Griffey Jr., Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard. The most famous guy right now is Travis Kelce, one of our investors and founding athletes. Vernon Davis, CJ McCollum, to name a few. Carmelo Anthony. So when we created this, when I had the vision of Players Team, when I brought it to Colin and Anthony, I was really trying to follow the blueprint of what Jay-Z did with Tidal, no pun intended, the blueprint, So, and what he did with Tidal was he was able to say, hey, let's make this the first ever artist-owned streaming company, right? Bringing music here first before Spotify gets it. And then each of the artists, like Beyonce, of course, and Alicia Keys, all of them got equity in a company to make that happen. And they built that valuation to $700 million pretty quickly. So I believe entrepreneurs should always study other businesses to say, how can I reimagine my business, right? So that was the blueprint to study. And then I said, well, why can't athletes have their own media network similar to the Tennis Channel, Food Network, BET, MTV, NFL Network, etc., given the fact that athletes have large followings on social media, large influence, and you also have like 40 athletes created production companies. So you create a production company, you need distribution. Mm-hmm. So we said, well, you don't need to rent space with us. You can own the space with us. And this was during the time 2019, before the pandemic happened. Athletes were on this journey of like, we want ownership over endorsementship, and that's why I support any athlete who's using their NIL, their name and likeness, to be able to say, hey, I'll take half of this, but I want the rest in equity. Like, I appreciate that. I value that. I think every business manager should be focusing on teaching their athletes about life beyond the game, and equity is legacy, and anything that's short transaction is temporary. Equity's legacy is what I always say. So I was a beneficiary of great timing. Can I build that business today, right now? Probably not, because you're talking about the most finicky, flaky people in the world are athletes, and being able to catch them at that right time, and being able to have Chris Paul and Anthony Tolliver and these guys that were union guys come together to help bring more athletes together as a collective. That was just perfect timing.
Without throwing people under the bus, they invested because of frustration maybe with the system, or feeling like that there is a better way. I wouldn't even go, we don't have to go so far as they were being taken advantage of, although I know a lot of players feel like that. So I don't want to throw anyone specifically under the bus, but what was it that caused them to say, man, I'm tired of this? What is the system that they were tired of? How was that built? And then how are you guys different?
Yeah, great question. I think with us, it was a fairly simple prop. It was ESPN. I'm gonna call the names out. It's fine. ESPN.
Hey, I don't care. I'm just saying you don't have to.
ESPN, CBS Sports, all those boys. They make their living off talking about guys' performances. They make their living, having debates. Well, a lot of those guys never even played a sport in their life, but they're analyzing a sport, right? And then they get so personal with it. Jason Whitlock and those guys, they get very personal with it and start saying different things. You have Stephen A. Smith, who I think is a smart human being. The words he used and how he speaks, his dictionary vocabulary is huge. Like he'd say some big words I never heard of before. But Stephen A. is a high intellect guy, but he's also done a lot to go too far and cross the line on calling Zion Williams fat, and living in a world of body shaming, guys or girls at the end of the day, with mental health being at an all-time high. So I believe with us, we were focusing more on, this is your network, this is a safe space for you, and you're not beholden or subjective to mainstream networks to give you space at the end of the day. Because what happens is these networks want their audience. These networks want these athletes, fans. They'll say, oh, hey, here's $1 million deal for your content at the end of the day, but we're going to talk bad about you 4 hours later, by the way. Make that make sense.
But then you got to go to the press conference. It's hosted on that network, and if you don't, you get fined.
Yes, and then you get you get interrogated by them like you're about to go to jail, you know, and asking uncomfortable questions, and they try to get you on a "I got you" opportunity, right? So, it's just a convergence of safe space, and I think that Kobe Bryant was on that quest, you know. And I always give credit where it's due. I think the Players Tribune, Jamie Messler, she's one of our advisors in the company. She's the founder of the Players Tribune. She created that company with Derek Jeter, and then LeBron created Uninterrupted, you know. So there were some people that kind of laid the foundation before I came in. So I want to make sure I give flowers where it's due, because they helped created the opportunity of athletes to think forward thinking of their content, and how to connect with their fans in a very humanized way.
Mm-hmm. It's easier. So 2019, 2026, easier than ever to create your own content. I don't know if it's easier than ever to create your own network necessarily, but you know, you can flip on a camera, do what we're doing right now, get it out on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, all social media stuff. With it being easier now than it was before when you guys started, has that presented any challenges to you, or like, does your value proposition change where you're like, hey, yeah, you can do your own content now easier, but we have something you don't? Is it distribution? Is it funding? Like, how's the value prop changed in that regard?
Yeah, we can help athletes monetize their content. You know, people gotta understand how network television work. You know, when you watch a show on TV, you ever heard that saying before from a network, "This show got canceled"? It's because it's simple. What they're saying is, it's costing us too much money, and advertisers doesn't want your content. See, if the brands don't want your content, how do we monetize that? You know, so it's a simple thing. You got to have demand from the brands. The brands know the audiences. The brands know, you know, your customer base. Mm-hmm. You know who you want to market to. You know how you're going to run your advertising spend and how you're going to market to that demographic, right? So if there's no ROI on our investment into the content, then why are we doing it? That's how networks think. So with us, it's teaching athletes, saying, hey, be intentional on what you're creating. And we're very honest with people, like, all because you have a show idea doesn't mean it's the right time for that show to be done today, because at the end of the day, there's no market for it. We're not going to do it, you know? So example, so we created a cooking show with DeAndre Jordan, right? It's called Cooking Clean, the first ever plant-based cooking show. And it's simple. It's like, who are the brands that want to reach these audiences that prefer to want to be eating clean and eating and health and wellness brands? So you can go to now, you know, Whole Foods. You can go to now these healthy for you places to be alongside that conversation, because those brands saying, hey, this show is the audience we want to reach because it's on brand to the audience that we're trying to reach. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. So we call it intentional development. So being intentional what you're creating, not because you think it's a cool idea.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you tweak that. They may come with an idea and you say,
we help them.
You tweak it a little bit. We develop this in this direction. Then you actually have support for the show. Exactly. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then we empower IP ownership. So now you're owning your IP. Like, we have a show now that's already doing close to $6 million already in revenue in the last 10 months. You know, because that is what Oprah and them did. Oprah, you look at her story. She was in Mississippi, working on a small TV station, Mississippi. She moved to Chicago for another TV station, and she said, I want to launch my own show called Oprah Winfrey Show. And she ended up creating her own production company called Harpo Productions. And she now gets paid off every single market in the country, syndicated. So when we were selling KOTV, she was getting money off those advertisers in East Texas. So imagine getting money off of 300 markets carrying Oprah Winfrey Show, residually, every day, every month. That's how you build IP, you know? And that's what we're teaching people to say, hey, create franchises. Create something that you look to every single day, every single week. Build that IP up to the masses. And then when you go, time to go get a valuation on your IP, you can say, hey, this IP made $10 million, $5 million. Now you get a multiple. That's why Hot Ones, remember Hot Ones on Complex? That's why they got sold for $80 million. Just that one IP, you know? So that's kind of how we teach the athletes think about why they're creating content.
Walk me through, and I talked to Colin about this. He said you'd be better to talk to about deal structure. Like, can you walk through, and I'm just personally fascinated with this. You know, you have, I don't know if you approach an athlete or an athlete approaches you, but you come in contact with an athlete. and there's an idea for content that's generated. What happens? Like, how is this deal put together, including the brand? Like, do you go to the brand and like, how is that sold? How does this whole thing work where you make money off of media?
Yeah, great question. So what we do is we number one, Players TV has its own ad tech solution. So we have our own ad network. So we reach several hundred million people a month. We're distributed on YouTube TV, sports package. We're on Direct TV. We're on Fubo. We're on Fire TV. So we're distributed to over 200 million households and access points, right? So that's that. And then that's important data because what advertisers want to know, what's the reach, who we have access to, and what's the audiences. So that's number one and two. And then three, it's really multiple ways we work with athletes. We'll have our own idea Players TV that we're producing at our studio level, and we'll try to figure out who's the right athlete that's the right fit for this show, right? So we're doing our show called Players Honors in Vegas on July 10th. It's going to be our second annual, like the ESPYs, but it's called Players Honors, and we're doing it at the Grand MGM in the same theater where Usher performed at, and it'll be 700 people there, live performances, live concert, athletes, red carpet, all things that we're doing. And we have marquee sponsors like Pepsi and State Farm and all them coming in, Novartis and all that. But then what you do is you have the ability for them to buy into the opportunity now, and now they're getting commercial inventory, they're getting custom content with athletes, and they're getting their media, the creative, running as a commercial spot. So we're getting all this value versus them going to ESPN is straight transactional. It's like
Just buy a block of impressions over a certain period of time.
Buy the spots, exactly. Buy the spots, buy the dots. You're going to be at NBA finals at this time spot, and pray to God somebody sees your ad. With us, we're like, we're going to bring you the talent, we're going to bring you the content in the inventory that becomes scalable, and from a standpoint of that creates a high level ROI for the brands to keep trying to renew with us.
Are these brands looking for more curated, customized, personalized content than just running ads on a TV screen? Like, is that where things are heading? Like, we want DeAndre Jordan to talk about our brand during the show. Want that integrated, like a live read type of thing? Like, are these brands like moving this direction where they want it integrated?
No, I think each of these brands have different buckets of money, and some brands have podcast budgets. The media the media budgets are the largest budgets in all businesses, right? Which falls under the consumer marketing department. You have influencer budgets, right? So it all gets set from the top with chief marketing officer to they disperse it out to the different teams. I think media just looks very different for different platforms. I think when you have podcast shows, you're going to be doing a lot more ad reads, right? But you're still going to have a pre-roll ad that you can go skip or not skip that comes across your YouTube channel, right? Yeah. That's never going to go away at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, it's brands are getting more smarter now on how they target audiences now. I think it's not an impression game no more. It's about an audience game now. That's why
who's seeing it? Like, I don't want to just...
It's data now.
Who's watching the finals? Like, I'm not just running the finals. I want to make sure 35 to 55-year-old men, X income, are watching before I...
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, data is the new oil. That's the new oil. Because if you can go say, hey, I want to go target market Travis Kelce fans that loves getting haircuts, that's in this 75234 zip code, that's valuable. That's extremely valuable, because now I'm removing the pray and spray now. So that's why social media and Google and all these different platforms have remodernized how we target people now, and it becomes highly measured, highly now it's fan intent. Now it's like, hey, who are these fans in the local area that loves the Cowboys, that loves fashion, which means they take their image very seriously. That can be a great client for this amazing Gents Place.
Yeah, he's a Gents Place member all the way.
Yeah.
NIL. I wanted to make sure we covered NIL before we wrap today. I don't know if you're ready to make any announcements, but I know you guys are entering the space, may have entered the space. might be doing something in the future. But just talk to us about NIL. It's fascinating. You and I talked earlier about 18-year-old, 17-year-old. I mean, people are getting paid really early. How are you guys participating in that?
Yeah, so we waited early on. It's still a wild west on the portal side type of business, but the NIL marketing is very clear now. How brands can work with athletes now, that becomes very clear. But early on, it was very unsure. So we took more like a wait and see approach. 'Cause we have access to a lot of different schools through our current athletes, like Chris Paul's very close to Wake Forest. We have access to different schools when we're ready. So we took more of a wait and see approach of like what it's going to be, what it's going to become. I do think there's probably going to be some regulatory restrictions coming soon, I believe. I think there should be a union in place to allow the athletes to make money on their NIL, but there should be they should be a market where they get their value based off their performance, how they perform, kind of how the pros are, you know. I think that makes it more predictable, you know, and that will come at some point over there. But I do believe athletes should get paid for their NIL. I believe athletes should be able to work with local car dealerships. I believe athletes should be able to work with the Gents Place and promote this brand as they promote, you know, sports clips or something like that. So that I do believe in. But no, we're announcing in a couple of weeks, or by the time this interview comes out, it'll be in the press. So we'll break it here. But we just acquired an NIL company called Market Price. Price is spelled PRYCE, Market Price. And we're getting 100,000 registered athletes to the platform. That's across tons of different universities and schools. But we're working on a system now where we're going to allow these advertisers and brands to be able to transact in a media style way, not in a quote unquote influencer style way, because we believe that, I firmly believe, and my team believes, that athletes should be viewed and seen as individual media properties, given that they have their own direct to consumer relationship now. Within those fans, that there's audiences and there's data and there's interest, and we believe that, and that's where we're headed. And you know, we're focusing on you know, bringing real value on a localized level to these athletes, and to have them be compensated accordingly based off data and metrics. See, other people in the industry, and not in the media, but just in like sports entertainment, where you have agencies and all that, a lot of these people are selling accolades, and we're selling data and real distribution and real IP and real content and real talent. So we're that's what we're doing. And having this NIL acquisition for us is huge, because it gives us a complete flywheel, and it allows us to take on full dominance and be able to be the Amazon of athlete-led media and storytelling, distribution, and data.
So there's a different value prop I'm seeing. You know, we've got the professional athletes, you've got a lot of big brands like Novartis and all of these others, the State Farms of the world. Then NIL, it seems like you've got more of a local advertising focus. Is the value proposition, is that fair? And how is the value proposition different NIL versus pro?
Yeah, it's local and regional for us, right? With NIL, it's not every athlete have national appeal, you know, and not every school has national appeal. Everyone's not a UT Austin. Everyone's not a Texas A&M that has a national, global alumni base, right? So we are like, let's focus locally and be able to talk to the local advertisers and come to these brands and say, hey, you've been doing it this way on local TV at sports time frame, you know, are you adapting to the new world of media? If so, let's have that discussion with you and figure out how we can bring our talent, part of this creative, and being able to do things on a localized level to these target audiences and reach those people that you want to reach through sophisticated ad technology that's going to allow you to have a great ROI with a recognizable face and name that everyone trusts and believe in.
How does an athlete, what advice would you give them to prepare, a college athlete, to prepare to receive maximum NIL money? Any do's or don'ts? Should they be building a big Instagram and TikTok? Like, should they be doing anything to prepare themselves to partner with you at Players TV in order to monetize their their
Yeah.
brand.
Yeah, look. We don't really care, and advertisers are looking at the same thing. They don't care if you have 1 million followers anymore. Like that's a vanity metric now. Quite honestly, you can have 3 million followers and they're not even damn engaged, right? Because at the end of the day, you didn't even reaching that full 3 million people anyway. Because Instagram is when it's like, nope, pay me to reach those, pay to play, right? So you really didn't reaching those people in the first place. So it's really about who's the person, what's their why, what's their purpose, and what their interest is, and and then also, are they even marketable? People don't understand.
Yeah, what does that mean? How, like that's what, if it's not followers, then what is it? How do you become marketable? You're a college athlete.
Yeah, so I think that here's a good example. Jameis Winston, right? I think he's the most funniest guy in the world, like the most funniest guy in the world, and he's so like such an honorable man as well, and but when he does anything, it gets 1 million views, 400,000 views, because he's like the best teammate ever. He's the glue guy, he's the locker room guy, but he's also funny, and he's getting brand deals because he's not the guy that won 4 Super Bowls. At the end of the day, he's the guy that fans like. And he connects with them. He feels relatable to them. You know, everyone's not Steph Curry. Everyone's not Tom Brady. That's upper echelon, right? So I will say this, like I would tell any athlete if I was their manager or their marketing manager, hey, everyone's not marketable. You have to build a brand first to become marketable. And that may require you to do things for free. That may require you to do things that you really love doing, but not getting paid for it at the end of the day. To like, we have some athletes right now that loves esports gaming, and they're in the WNBA, you know, Aerial Powers, but she's crossed over to gaming, and now has a whole fan base now that has converged now and say, wow, I watch basketball because of you now, Ariel. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's about stepping out to doing things and feel relatable, because we believe, and I believe, there's value in relatability that equates to compatibility. If we're relatable, we have things we're compatible in at that point.
Yeah, and that can go beyond their performance on the court.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense. What's next for Players TV? I mean, you got NIL. I know you got a lot on your plate, but can you give us any sort of hints about the future? Next, I don't know, 2-3 years.
No, I think for us that we're focusing on hyper growth, and I think that we want to go. Our hypothesis and our growth trajectory was always, after we do Players TV US, let's go do Players TV UK, Players TV China, and other places where those sports are popular at, and replicate what we did here in the States, and be able to have an international partner in China, whatever it may be, to help us get there, you know, and be able to do that on a global scale, and to have global CEOs and teams out there. So I've been have the ability and luxury to have some of the coolest founders on my cap table, and like Adam Chyer, who's the founder of Siri, is on our advisory board and shareholder in the company, and we have Tashana Duckett, who's the CEO of TIA Bank, and she's former president of Chase, you know, and on the board of Nike. She's an investor in the company. So we have a lot of people that have experience running and building big business, and being able to, I'm coachable. So I'm a sponge. I want to learn from you as well. I want to understand how you, that's why I asked you this question earlier. How did you build your business, and what was your why behind it all? I think once you're a sponge, and that's what made Kobe Bryant my favorite athlete of all time. Love Kobe. He was a sponge. He wanted to learn from Jordan, and he replicated his game after Jordan, and people say he copied him. Like, well, you shouldn't copy the greats before you at the end of the day. That's the best blueprint to follow. So I think for us is now, how do we grow globally, and how do we grow globally responsibly, right? And do it thoughtfully, do it intentionally, so that when we execute, my team, we know that we're very obsessed with execution in the process, and we accept failure. Failure is inevitable. It's going to happen. I always say, don't let failure define you, but failure teaches you great lessons, great wisdom, that allows you to be able to, you know, grow and scale in any direction you want to go in.
You either succeed or you learn.
Yeah, I will fail all over again. I fail at least once a month in something, you know. But I take those experiences and figure out how do I channel those experiences to be able to learn from them, and then being able to focus on our growth, to answer your question, in the next 2 to 3 years or so, is about how do we go globally in the next 2 to 3 years responsibly.
And you guys are offering up the opportunity to continue investing, I saw. So that's still an opportunity.
We opened up a special round for fans and strategic investors. It's called our fan investors. So we have over 3,000 fan investors now. So we're the first ever athlete fan-owned media company now. So which is owned by 70+ athletes and 3,000 plus investors that are all the way down to $1,000 investors all the way up to hundreds of $1,000 investors, So just doing things different, man. Having fun with it, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. Deron, it's great having you on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate you coming, you and Colin both. I know y'all are busy, taking over the world at some point.
One day at a time.
That's right, man.
Yeah, chipping at it,
That's right. Thanks for coming. Guys, thanks for coming to the lounge and watching us, and until next